live. I'm reading out of Joan Grant's autobiography, Time Out of Mind. This is the book about her early life until the 30s. She was born 1907 and she was a writer of her own farm memories. She used to write about her incarnations and she explains how it came to be that she was able to do this. We're now in part 5 of this book and I stopped halfway through chapter, I think it was chapter 5, because it was quite a long chapter, which was entitled, chapter 4, entitled Farm Memory. And she has been giving words which she receives through memories of her faraway life. And her husband, Leslie, would write it down when she was speaking. So he was saying to her, don't argue with yourself, get out and get on with it. So she obeyed and laid down and dictated at top speed for exactly 22 minutes. I came back with a jerk. Well, that's all I'm going to do for tonight. There was a lot about smells, nice smells mostly, but don't bother to read it back. I am too tired to be interested. I was asleep almost as soon as I got into bed. Leslie stayed up long enough to copy out his speed writing into the notebook, which he left open on my bedside table. And this is what was written. Here is the dark red perfume of the rose, the drowsy quiet of a bean field in the dusk, the gentle death of autumn in deep woods, and the clean smell of ploughland after the rain. The friendly wood smoke of a cooking fire, the satisfying smell of baking bread, the earth-forgotten green of new-cut grass, the moon-drunk sweetness of night-blooming flowers, the warmth of clover, murmurous with bees, the sleepy peace of avenues of limes, the tuberose languorous caress, the chill austerity of alpine flowers, the yellow warmth of primroses at noon, the scent of water running over stones, the lonely sorrow of the river mist, the smooth white smell of linen and of snow, the dusty wisdom of papyrus rolls, and the warm spice of cedar wood and myrrh, the hot impatient smell of spikenard, and tarnished silver's half-remembered dreams, the clear, sharp energy of lemon rind, the lover's ecstasy of orange trees, the melancholy smell of winter nights and hyacinth's azure echo of the spring, the salty challenge of wind-driven spray, that wander-urging message of the sea, the gentle memories of sun-dried flowers, the still abandonment of fields at noon, the moth-winged purple of new-gathered grapes, the easy laughter of a jar of beer, the excitement of a gallop-sweated horse, and the proud splendor of the manes of lions, the acrid keenness of a copper sword, and the brave smell of torches in the wind, the musky pomp of ceremonial robes, and the solemnity of bitumen. I woke Leslie to read it aloud. It's all in uppity, Leslie. Ti-tum, 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 ti-tum. If you were less illiterate, he mumbled, hunching farther under the bedclothes, you would recognize the umpty for a 5-foot iambic. I shall continue to call it umpty, and I think it very clever to write 5-foot whatsits without ever having heard of them. It proves my theory about there being no real need for education. Oh, shut up, it's only 9 o'clock. Go and chatter to Gillian, she enjoys it. Ti-dum, 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 I chanted as I retrieved Rishan from under the eiderdown. I wonder if I shall dictate any more umpty. The last half-dozen chunks were all in the same meter. I thought you had noticed. Well, I didn't. I'll go and read them and leave you in peace. I might not have felt so gay had I recognized that this recording was part of the initiation and that I had to re-experience the 7 great ordeals. The 7th, which I did first, in which Chiquita had to overcome the cobra, increased my ordinary fear of snakes to such a pitch that I thought of vipers whenever I walked on the moor. And I had several nightmares from which I woke screaming, so convinced that there was a snake in the bed that, to calm me, Leslie had to pull all the bedclothes off and shake them out of the window. That the weather by now was cold enough to freeze the water in the glass by my bed did not make my panic any more endearing to my bedfellow. I did the battle with Ishtak and the other 5 ordeals on the same evening, in a desperate anxiety to get them over. I expected to get a headache, but was not prepared for cramps, rigors, and icy sweats, which lasted for 24 hours and were followed by another day and night of pains in the joints and a temperature of 103. Fortunately, I had realized that it was only a spook illness, so I managed to stop Leslie sending for the doctor. It was a very unpleasant 48 hours, but on the morning of the 3rd day I proved my diagnosis correct by waking entirely recovered. I learned that physical reaction is not the only disadvantage attending the practice of far memory. Pleasure can be dimmed by contrast with brighter joy of the past, and present sorrows and anxieties are increased by re-experiencing earlier ones with a similar emotional quality. For instance, I should not have been nearly so anxious about Rishan's chances of recovery while I was nursing him through severe distemper, unless I had remembered Chiquita's grief at the death of her lion. Den, Chiquita's daughter, was 8 years old and of an adventurous disposition, which caused her to disobey her attendants and go alone beyond the boundaries of the palace garden. Her mother, who had been equally resentful of discipline at the same age, made the child promise to take Nate with her when she felt the urge to go on a private adventure. She took Nate to the hot sandy place among the reeds, and there she found a cobra. She thought that it was the royal snake, like the golden one her mother sometimes wore as a headdress. That it would be friendly to the daughter of Pharaoh. She was walking towards it, intending to stroke this squared hood, when Nate leapt at the snake and killed it, but it had already bitten him. Den ran to fetch her mother. Chiquita sent for Seb, now captain of captains, who had been a lion boy when Nate was a cub, and for a strong litter with 8 bearers to carry the lion back. It took a strong litter with 8 bearers to carry the lion back to the palace. When Den and I reached Nate, he was still alive. At the sound of my voice, he tried to struggle to his feet, but could not, and he fell over on his side. I knew there was nothing I could do to save him. I took his head on my lap and stroked his ears and whispered into them that I dearly loved him. When Zeb came, he also knew that nothing could be done, and he knelt beside me. Then at last my Nate licked my hand, and his heavy head fell to rest upon my knees, and I knew his brave spirit had returned to Ptah. For the sake of Den, I tried to check my tears until I saw tears running down Zeb's face. Captain and Queen both weeping by their lion. "Why are you still sad when Rishan is so much better, Mummy?" inquired Julian, several days after I had recorded Nate's death. I told her I had a bit of a gloom, which would be instantly cured if we went for a walk together. I could not tell her that several times I had caught myself listening for the thud of great paws, for the rumbling, rasping complaint of a lion impatient for my door to be opened for him. It was nearly a fortnight before Joan's heart ceased grieving for Chiquita's lion. So that was chapter 4, and there is another chapter to come entitled Chord and Discord.